Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by HM Company at draintroughs.com. We've got a good one for you today. We've got Oleg, the co-founder of Laundroworks, and Nick D'Ascencio from Cents, one of the SVPs at Cents, one of the bigwigs over there. And we're going to be not just talking about Laundroworks and the product, although we are going to get into some of that. We're actually going to be talking about data. They have a treasure trove of information that they're willing to share with the industry. And we asked them if they could come on the show and just kind of talk through not only how do we collect that data, how do we get that data, but how do we use that data, what reports should we be looking at, and things like that. So we think you're going to get a lot of this episode. These guys are both very transparent, kind of open books. And in case you're wondering, yes, we do ask them about the new $140 million, the largest direct private equity investment ever in the history of the laundry industry. And we ask them why they did that and what they need that for and why in the world you need $140 million. And Nick was actually very, very transparent about it. It was actually a fantastic answer that kind of excites me for the future of the industry.
But before we get started, let's take a moment to spotlight one of our wonderful services through the Laundromat Millionaire platform, which is our Laundromat Millionaire Insurance Program. Insurance is becoming harder and harder to get and more expensive in the laundromat industry. So we have partnered with some experienced laundromat insurance providers to provide you with a great opportunity to insure your store at a good rate. So go to laundromatmillionaire.com/insurance and fill out a request for a free quote today. But let's get started with today's episode with Oleg and Nick.
Trust is earned in inches and lost in miles. It's an operating system for your laundromat that happens to be a payment system. Why do you love the system? My customers are happy. I can understand them better. I was like, and the reality is I make more money in less time. And that's the number one reason people should be investing in a modern payment system.
So Nick and Oleg, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, we are honored to have you guys here. Man, I'll tell you guys, it's been a couple seasons ago now that we had Alex Chakowski, the CEO of Cents, on. And for those of you wondering if this is the same type of episode, it's not. What we're really going to talk about here, we have the Oleg, the co-founder of Laundroworks, and Nick D'Ascencio. I hope I said that correctly.
Crushed it.
And he is, for lack of I can't pronounce your actual title, Nick, so I'm just going to say you're the right-hand man to the CEO, whatever that is.
That works.
But we're going to have them here and we're going to talk about data, and we're going to talk about data and how they read data and how they pull data out of the Laundroworks system specifically. And then I guess I'll go ahead and get this out of the way right now, Nick. Y'all just yesterday, the day before we're recording, announced that you just closed on a Series C for $140 million. So that won't be much of the episode. We don't want to spend much time on that, but I do have a couple questions if I'm allowed to ask them in a little bit. So we'll get into that as well. But yeah, if you guys could do us a favor and just take like a quick, 90 seconds or something like that and tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the industry, and Oleg, obviously how you've co-founded Laundroworks and things like that.
Yeah, Oleg, if we can start with you, I'm curious. I've never heard the backstory of Laundroworks. How did you come up with this idea? How did it all start?
Yes, of course. So it was really my dad who founded the company about 20 years ago. It was just called MyTech Integrated Systems at the time. Laundroworks came later as we branded into Laundromats. He had an opportunity to build a payment system for a new company that was formed at the time that needed to service laundry rooms in apartment buildings. So this is kind of like a mini laundromat, right? You have maybe 4 sets of machines, washers, and dryers, but those still need a payment system. Those still need to be managed. So he took the opportunity to actually develop the system. But before developing, he did a little bit of research about, the current technologies, what's available from central payment systems where you might want to select your washer and dryer from a central little kiosk box that commands the machine to start, maybe 30 feet away, to a prepaid card system. He liked the card system approach the best. It's simple. You put in your card, you have money on there, you go to the very machine you're loading clothes into, you tap it to start. Well, tapping is going to come later, but anyways, you make the interaction at the machine itself. But he wasn't satisfied with the current state of like the card technology that he saw around. Those mag stripes, chip cards were around, with the little gold chip. Those were a little bit prone to, the environment. So he dug and dug to find something better. And he noticed in Asia, they were using these contactless cards for transport, usually in metro systems. You reload a card and you tap it, the gate opens, you go right through. It was brilliant. And he had the vision to just bring this to the industry here. Certainly it wasn't used in laundry, and just generally, there are very few applications for these contactless cards. So he really was the first one to bring it to the industry. So he built kind of a system around that. It was a reloadable kiosk, reloadable card through a kiosk. It was just a metal box that hung on a wall. You drop in your card just as you do today. It's very, very simple. You insert your bill. The value of that bill gets added to the digital balance on the card. It's brilliant. You take that card, you tap it on the card reader on the machine, just as you do today, actually, and it starts the machine. And it took off from there. I took an interest in the company. I was still doing engineering work at the time for a large corporation, but I was, helping him assemble some of these systems along with my mom, actually, in the basement of our house. One thing that I saw was missing, he had the payment piece working, was really the data, right? These route operator companies, that's the name of these companies that service these laundry rooms and really our customer, they needed data from these machines. They needed to know the cycles, the revenue, so they can actually do some sort of revenue share with a property manager to see when machines might be out of order. And so that's when I really got into the company. I developed sort of the internet connectivity piece of it from inside the kiosk and up to the cloud with the APIs and all that sort of stuff that's needed. And at that point, it really took off. It was a successful system. It helped our first customer there to really grow their business as well. So we kind of grew together. And eventually I joined full time. It really became even more of a family business because my mom started doing the bookkeeping. Even my wife came on board. She has a computer science background to really build out the software backend. Yeah. And that's how we really, I guess, built the business. It was in that laundry room space.
When did you all switch from being MyTech to Laundroworks? And when did you get into the laundromat industry?
Exactly. So Laundroworks, we really branded that when we realized there was opportunity in the laundromat space. And it really started, I think, about 2016 when we visited the Clean Show. But at that show, there was quite a bit of interest in this technology, right? And we really learned that the requirements for laundromats are not too different from laundry rooms, right? You have to be able to pay. It has to be reliable. You have to support, all the different machine cycles, and you need the data, right? Just like the laundry room operators. The difference is really a lot of the bells and whistles, the marketing, the bonuses, that sort of stuff you have in the laundromat space that you don't have so much in the laundry room space. But 80% of it was the same. So from that, we decided to build a bigger kiosk, slap on a touch screen and add some of these bells and whistles. We got a couple of deals with, the actual operators. This was before we started doing anything with dealers, but they kind of took a risk on us and it worked really, really nicely. So from that, we changed, we actually branded it as Laundroworks to give it something a little bit more catchy. And, we started entering the laundromat space a little bit more and more.
Whether you already have a laundromat or are looking to get into the laundry industry, everyone needs proper drainage. We use HM Company drain troughs. Their drain troughs were first created in 1991, and they have been the leading drain trough manufacturer ever since. They're made in the USA, and their drain troughs are fully customizable to meet your needs. That's why we've used them ever since entering the industry. They're easy to clean for our staff and plenty sturdy when we need to walk on them when servicing our washers. With the ability to span up to 25 feet, our troughs rarely need to be connected together, creating an easy installation. Want to slope your trough like we do? No problem. Just let the experts at HM Company know. For more information, go to their website at draintroughs.com. That is draintroughs.com. HM Company Drain Troughs. They've been leading the industry since 1991. Check them out today. Well, I know you all have always had an exceptional reputation for just the reliability of your product. And I'm sure that's why it caught the attention of Cents. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Cents and why Cents looked to Laundroworks and how that merger is going?
Yeah, 100%. So appreciate us having us on. So we're always a big fan of the show and you've supported us for years. And we appreciate that. So at first, and I promise I won't belabor this, we've talked about this before, but for those hearing this for the first time. So the concept of Cents is very similar to the Apple Store, where we want to be the one place that a laundromat owner can come in and find that piece of technology they need. They might only need a POS today. And that's great. They're going to find a market leading product that does what it's supposed to do at a reasonable price, and it does it. And the magic is that I won't belabor this, but there's 3 types of laundromats: self-serve, drop off, and pick up and delivery. They come in different combinations. The idea that they can change their business and not have to change their technology stack, so they can add a payment system after the fact, and it seamlessly integrates with the purchases they've already made. And if they have another location that has a totally different footprint, it'll merge with those as well. So like our thesis is we're either going to build every piece of technology that needs to be out there, or we're going to buy the ones that are great. And I think that's always been our ethos as a company. We've been out there. And so we started on the point of sale originally, which is the product we were originally known for. It was our basically our wedge into the industry. And we actually started building our own hardware technology. And we went out and obviously talked to anyone that's been in the industry for a while. I was like, hey, I was like, there's a lot of noise out there. I was like, if we were considering either building or buying, I go, who would we talk to? And it was like, ask 100 people, 99 of them said, you got to talk to the Laundroworks team, like Oleg and Michael. And I wasn't actually part of those original conversations, but as you can imagine, as we got to the point of joining forces together in March of 2 years ago, like if I had to pick like some of the best coworkers I've ever had in my life, like the Laundroworks team absolutely falls in that category. Their product was beloved. It was so incredibly thoughtful. I think that the reputation they had made other things we were trying to do remarkably easier. And actually one of the biggest challenges when we joined forces was like that team was so loved. It's like, hey, is this company going to screw it up? Is this Oleg leaving? Is this what's happening? And I think for the first year, I will say this, and I've said this publicly to anyone that will ask, is like, I was like, I want nothing to change except for things that we even look at, say, those could be better. And so like, I spent probably a year, and Oleg and I worked really closely on this, is like, how do we keep everything exactly the same? So we create a reputation that like, we're here and we want this to be together, because Oleg thought he would be a better organization where Oleg can go work on products and have maybe me work with more of the customers and distributors, have our customer support team take more of those conversations. That Oleg's phone was ringing 24 hours a day on support calls, sales calls, whatever, like taking that stuff off. Because if we, speaking for Oleg here, if Laundroworks had the growth that it had without us, a lot of stuff would have broke. And same thing, if we tried to build the next Laundroworks, I don't think we would have been able to build something better than they built. And so when you think about that conversation about like, when you bring a merger together or team up, like 2 + 2 should equal more than 4 if you do it right. And I think it's one of the things that we really did well. And I got to tell you, like, as the person responsible for selling the things here at this company, like Laundroworks is one of the best products I've ever sold with some of the greatest group of people I've ever worked with. And like, we're here 2 years later. Every human being from the Laundroworks team is still here. And if anything, we've added to the team. And I think that's something that I think we're both very proud of.
Well, Carla, before we move on, I'll throw this out there. And I've said this before privately. I don't know that I've said it publicly. And this is not to shame any other product or person or distributor or anyone in the laundry industry. And I can tell you, and Oleg, you could pass this on to your father. And I tell you, there is not a product or a company or a distributor in the industry that I have never, and I don't use absolutes very often, I've never heard a negative word about. I've never heard a negative word about Laundroworks, period. End of story. And when Alex was having this conversation and considering the merger and stuff like that, that's what I told him. He was like, "What do you think about this?" I said, "This is all I need to say, Alex." So very excited that the powerhouse at Cents and the powerhouse at Laundroworks are doing this together. Obviously, it's no secret we use Laundroworks in our stores. We'll be adding the fourth one hopefully this year, our last one. And of course, have used Cents for, I didn't know it at the time, but we were one of the first.
Also say to that idea too of reputation is I think this is something we talk a lot about. Is like trust is earned in inches and lost in miles, right? Yep. And it's the idea that like goodwill is earned over time, but you can lose it in a heartbeat. And I think it's also funny in the introduction. It's like Nick. I joke like I'm Nick from Cents/Laundroworks, which is like that quote I use all in the public forums. And I think it's one of those things we've really tried to be incredibly out there and available to, because I think that reputation that was earned can be lost if we don't foster it as well. People will give you a lot, especially small business owners. They give you a lot of grace if you make a mistake and you say, "I hear you, I see you, and I'll fix it." I think they get. The second you start acting like a corporation, like they left their corporate jobs for a reason. And I think that's something we think a lot about is like, let's not remind them of why they became a laundromat owner. Let's remind them of being a laundromat owner. I think those two very different things.
Wow. Very well said. Very well said.
So I'm going to ask a question for the newbies out there, or people that are maybe just dipping their toes into laundromat payment processing and everything. I think it's very confusing. I mean, we had a previous episode with Steve Marcinetti about some of CCI's offerings, and it's all the different payment options. And I know since your big thing is trying to be the all-in-one platform. Now, my understanding is Laundroworks, though, is only a loyalty card system, correct?
Correct. ... Let's talk about that. Let's unpack the ... part. How about that?
So I want you, Nick, can you explain to me how through Cents and Laundroworks, people can get? What are all the different payment options they can
Yep.
get? And what do you call those different things? How would they
Totally.
request those different things?
So let me bring down the products, and I think naturally we'll talk about the integrations and how they work over time. So let's step back and go back to the ethos of like our belief structure, right? So before our existence, you'd have, it's almost like little like tribes. You'd have the app only tribes, and you'd walk to that table and tell you why app only is the greatest thing on earth. And then you'd go to the pay at machine tribes, and they would tell you a pay at machine's best. And then you go to loyalty card. And Laundroworks historically has been in that tribe of loyalty only. Something we wanted to do, and I think this is really, really important, is we have an app-based option. We'll talk about that. We have a pay at machine option. We'll talk about that. We have a loyalty card option. I'll talk about that. So that allows us to someone to come and say, I have a business that looks like this. Your Amelia store, right, looks dramatically different than your other stores. And your stores look different than a store in California, in Southern Texas, in Florida, a one store owner, a 20 store owner, a self-service only, a pickup and delivery only. And I think so the idea is too, is I think when you go to those individual vendors, they go, oh, this is the best thing ever. That's the only product they have to sell. And I think that inherently creates bias. That is my opinion. We as a company want to have an app-based system. We want to have a pay at machine system, a loyalty card system. And the other part is modularity, is the idea. And I think your store in Amelia is a great example. And we'll talk about our offerings in a second, is you went with one device and then down the road made additional investments that allowed you to expand the system without having to throw out your original devices. And I think when we think about the ecosystem, is like, you should be able to make choices that are right for your business today. And you should be able to add to those choices down the road. I don't think there's a world you'd want to subtract, but it's there. And I think that's one of the things that we try to be. So stepping back before we get into the options is we try to have something in every category because different businesses are different. And like we allow the business owner to make choices, and it puts us in a better position to consult people. When I have all the options, like say, I have an app, I'm choosing that's not the right solution here, or I have loyalty, it's the right solution here. So that's the ethos on it. So we'll put, that starts a ... So let's start with our top selling product and we'll actually work backwards. So our top selling product, and I mean, by a gigantic margin, I think probably no company in the entire industry in the last 2 years has sold more than we have, is the Laundroworks system, which Oleg and his team invented, and we partnered 2 years ago. So that starts with, first off, most often removing your change machine and replacing with a kiosk on the wall. And that kiosk is a touch screen that allows you to do debit and credit, and also allows you to cash with the kiosk. Deposit money, it dispenses a loyalty card, which comes custom with your logo, which then allows you to go up to your washer and dryer and allows you to tap your card to start the machine. And that allows you to have a different relationship with your business. That system in any given month, any given year is absolutely by far our top selling system. I think we'll talk about benefits down the road, but that's our number one selling system. Cool. So the second option is some customers will have a coin only washer and dryer, and they want to add pay at machine. So we have our penny reader, touchscreen, debit and credit slot. That gets installed on the reader, typically next to the coin slot. You can eliminate the coin slot. A lot of people don't. And that allows you to accept credit and debit at the machine. Now, our loyalty kiosk, which shuts the modularity, can be used with this reader. It allows you to basically just tap at the bottom, which is what you have in the Amelia store, or it can be used with this reader, which allows you to do this. The big difference is this allows you to do pay at machine. The other one allows you to only do stored value. There actually is a world where you can implement this reader on a washer or dryer, and you use a much smaller kiosk and allows you to do app only payments. A lot of people don't even know we offer that. In the retail laundromat, it is incredibly rarely used. There are other use cases in route, hotels, a multi-unit housing you use much more commonly, but it's actually a product that people realize we don't have. So when people are comparing, I have a product, I could sell you that product, but most successful retail laundromats are not using that product in that environment outside some use cases. So the three products are the loyalty system Laundroworks, the pay at machine penny, and then the mobile only option using the Laundroworks reader, which is incredibly rarely used in the laundromat space.
What about the QR code? We have that too.
Yes. So this reader in particular can have a QR code mounted next to it that allows you to use your phone, scan the QR code, will allow you to go on your phone and pay with Apple Pay, Google Pay, or credit or debit, and allow you to start the machine that way as well. And obviously tie in with the kiosk, which will the point of sale, which will allow you to remotely start a machine as well. But yeah, that's there. So many options.
But just to be clear, especially now we're seeing the Laundroworks system with the card reader operators adding the mobile payment option to that as well. You don't need a small key. Any kiosk will do actually, right? So it's both loyalty card and our app as well. And it's actually pretty slick. We also kind of pioneered, but we're not using QR code for the Laundroworks app. We're using kind of NFC based technology where you just tap your phone. It's also prepaid, except for instead of reloading your card, you reload your phone, your digital balance on the phone. And so you don't
Yeah.
need the card, just tap your phone to that black reader that Nick showed.
So you won't even need like the QR code or even a laundry card. You can literally just do it all on the app and tap your phone.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't need to visit.
NFC.
That is awesome. So you don't have to worry about losing your card. I mean, you have to worry about losing your phone, but hopefully you don't do that.
Sure. Hey, well, if you lose your phone, you get a new one. You load the app. It's the balance is back instantly.
Yeah, as long as you have your account, it's
yeah,
just log
you're
in.
good.
Spoken like a true salesperson.
Totally. I will say people really, I mean, I've consulted at this point, like thousands of people into buying systems. And I think a big thing is people really get hung up on like I sit through these presentations, like we do credit and debit and this and like the what, but not the why or the business impact. And I think if I could like wish one for the thing for the industry is like all of us, myself included, the industry as a whole, is we start talking about the impact it has on people's businesses and quantifying it opposed to the what it does. Cause like it's a widget factory. And I think we were doing owners a disservice by treating it like a widget factory. That's my 2 cents on that.
Picture your store on a Saturday. The parking lot is full. Your washers and dryers are turning. Customers stroll in, and before you know it, your store has come alive. Now, cut to you. You've done your homework and upgraded to Speed Queen machines, so you're not stuck behind the counter. Instead, you're doing what you love. Speed Queen Insights technology allows you to manage your store remotely, anytime, anywhere. Check in between errands instead of spending a full Saturday at your store. When it's time to retool, Speed Queen makes it easy to build the right equipment and tech mix with customer-friendly controls that keep you in control. Visit speedqueencommercial.com/turns to get started.
So one of the benefits with you all having all these platforms and they talk to each other is that you can pull the data from one place. Is it to the point that you can pull it all from the Cents platform though? Or is it still on a Laundroworks platform and a Cents platform?
Great question. I think this is the idea too about, always moving forward is 90% of what's available in the Laundroworks platform is now portable into the Cents Business Manager, which is for those that don't have it, is the ecosystem that allows you to like understand your business with the click of a mouse. The one feature that we are on the 1 yard line for that is incredibly asked for is on the Laundroworks side. Obviously, you have all this rich data, card usage, contact information in very short order. Hope by the time this video comes out, all that data will be ported into the business manager. So you're going to be able to use Sense Accelerate, which is our automated email marketing text messaging platform. So for example, I haven't seen this user in 30 days. It ports it over. It automatically sends a text saying, hey, we'd love to win you back. And right now, even the Laundroworks system, you historically would export that and bring it to a third party. The ability to have that natively in the product that allows the customers to use triggers. Because also too is like, especially like you think of the business, you run a retail drop off and a pickup and delivery. So we have a concept we call the 360 of the customer. It is like you have your self-serve customer, you have your drop off customer, and you have a pickup and delivery customer. And like, let's rewind 5 years ago. It was like you had profiles in each user somewhat, but they were not cohesive. So if someone was moving between those, it's like you couldn't understand that journey. And so when you're using the whole stack, the ability to truly understand that journey and have one holistic view of the user. So on the hardware side, like when you're using Quarters, complete black box. And I'm not anti-Quarters. I am pro technology. That is what I am. I'm pro results. When you're using Quarters, it's blind. Even Pay at Machine, it's relatively blind. The loyalty card makes it less blind, but it was siloed. And so bringing that data into the Laundroworks ecosystem, now the Sense ecosystem allows us to get a 360 view on a user, which like really opens up a lot of things that honestly, even 9 months ago weren't even possible. So we're proud of the thing we are committed to doing. And I think that's going to be a big one for us when we get there.
I know we do already. We've started doing a lot of in the Accelerate with the journeys and the blasts and the different groupings. And so I'm excited to be able to target some of our Laundroworks customers. But another piggyback on that with having the integrated platform is so we have Laundroworks for self-service, obviously, but because of being integrated with Cents, integrated with our POS system, they can use their Laundroworks card balance to get vending at our counter, to order drop off, to order pickup and deliveries. So that balance isn't even only for self-serve anymore because of that integration.
Yeah, and I think a big thing that like when I talk to owners, right, and they're walking up this big tan kiosk sitting on a table, which is where people see it usually, is like they've seen it before, they heard about it, they go, what is this? And the biggest thing I try to instill them quickly, I was like, before we get into this, I was like, this system is going to change your relationship with your investment. I was like, and I need them to understand that before I start to explain everything. They go, how so? And you talk about that customer journey of someone coming in and putting the money in, putting a $20 bill in or swiping a card or whatever the case is, and it getting the loyalty card dispensed. I was like, you as the business owner, right in that step right there, when you're using a traditional change machine, when someone puts $20 in and $20 in quarters come out, you have net zeroed at that point. And now the consumption of those $18 become the revenue that you can recognize, and they leave with two because that's their money. I was like, now that $20 deposit at the kiosk is your business. I was like, that is your income into your business. Now you're the services business. Can you provide washers and dryers and a safe, clean, bright place that allows people to feel safe with their family and to do the thing they need to do every single week, and they choose to do it with you? And when you think about that one little element, is like, then you get into the whole concept of data and the whole concept of the ecosystem and understanding customer behaviors. And I think once I get people to that point, I remind them, I was like, this is a loyalty system. It's an operating system for your laundromat that happens to be a payment system. And I think once people understand that, and that's a big part about the seat I get to sit in, is like, I have users, and Oleg has users longer than me. They've been with us 5-6 years. And so you get to say like, okay, we're a half a decade into this. Why do you love the system? And the answers they give you are very rarely about, well, it accepts credit or debit or cash. It's like, my life is incredibly easy. I'm making way more money than I was. My customers are happy. I can understand them better. I was like, and the reality is I make more money in less time. And that's the number one reason people should be investing in a modern payment system. So I think at its core, it was a payment system. Now we've recognized it's so much bigger than that. And I think that's why people love it.
So your comment about the $20, we'll get a little more into the data analysis behind it. So they put in $20 in your change machine. They spend 18 of it, you get 18. They put in $20 into Laundroworks, you get $20 even if they only spend 18. So that difference, that $2 is what we call float. We've done episodes where we've already kind of discussed what float is, but it's basically like kind of a payable on your books. They could redeem it at some point, or they might just never redeem it, and you just have that extra money. Can you talk, since you have so much data and the float out there across so many different businesses, what does that look like? Like, how big can we expect that float to be?
Happy to address something above float before we get into it.
Yeah.
I have a great analogy. Like, judging a lifeguard on their ability to do CPR is not a great lifeguard. And I also think judging a payment system by float as its number one important thing is like, that's a version of CPR. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have been like, oh, like, if float's the number one reason, like, are you putting on a great customer experience? Like, I actually agree with that. I think actually when you sit back and look at the system as a whole, about 40% of your users over a long period of time represent about 90% of all the money you're going to make as a business owner, right? And I think Dave and Carter are the most two data-driven people I meet. Laundroworks didn't invent that. Laundroworks just made it a lot clearer to be able to see that. And those loyal users are going to be the vast majority of your lifetime revenue. So typically what you're going to hold at a laundromat is, I'm going to use round numbers here. For laundromats doing $300,000 in self-service revenue a year, right? Installing a loyalty system, you're going to hold somewhere between 5 to 10% in float at any given time on a yearly basis. A laundromat doing 300 will typically hold traditionally on traditional payment systems would be somewhere between 315 to 330. That would be the average lift we expect. Float comes in two categories: stale float and then active float, let's call it. Stale float is the idea that people do lose cards. It happens. I was like, but also people visit on a Monday and do 100% of their laundry, have $3 left, and come back. And I think this is the benefit to float. Float is a reason for people to visit your location again. And you see this when people roll out the Laundroworks system within a location for the first time. I always say, for the first 2 weeks, like, double the money. People go, that sounds really expensive, or it's a marketing. I go, no. It's inherent loyalty. I go, because you're saying you're willing to give this an opportunity and chance. Load that 20, we're going to give you 40, which means I'm going to pay for this trip, and the next one's on me. And I think that also talks about, too, the relationship with the customer is, if you were to do that in a traditional cash-oriented laundromat, is like, you give me 20, I'm going to give you 40. It's like, there's no inherent loyalty, and you're operating on a credit-based system. So you give me 20, I'll give you 40. They only are going to cost you something if they change their behaviors and come back a second or third time. So I really think that float concept is, yes, it's held at 5 or 10% at a given time. And there's a concept of stale float that is absolutely yours to keep as the owner. But I think at its core, the average American will move heaven and earth to come back for those $3. And that gives you a second, third, fourth chance to change the behavior. And that is the reason float's important, is because it's the inherent mutual understanding that we're going to see that user again, and we're going to make them a loyal user and get the opportunity to provide service for them. And like, that's the core of the laundromat industry.
Yeah, you spoke about the customer experience, and that was actually one of our concerns with going loyalty card only, was that some customers don't want to have to put $20 on the card if they know they're only using 18. That's one thing with your integration, being able to offer both. So we have the Sense penny readers. We do have one store that is not hybrid. It doesn't take coin except over the counter to our attendants. But we have the Sense penny readers where we can take credit cards, debit cards at the machine, or the loyalty card from Laundroworks. So they do have an option. Now we do have incentives for when they do the loyalty card, trying to get them to use that. But another thing I wanted to comment on is you said if they lose the card, but another thing with the Laundroworks system is if they register for the card, they can come in at any time and still have that balance, even if they lose the card.
But that's the other part too, is like people harp on things like that. Like all cards have a unique number on the back, right? So we know these cards are unique. And that's the mutual benefit, right? The owner can offer to register or not register. Right? That's the owner's option. The vast majority of owners do. And it's like you have the choice to register, name, email, phone number. That gives you two things. One, that creates a profile that's richer than just a card number. And two, it provides incentive. Like you do that, it's going to be, if you ever lose the card, like I'll happily issue another one with the balance. And I think that double thing like that, anytime you do something that creates friction for a customer, this is like business 101. You create friction for a customer. Like, what is the benefit to that friction? I was like, we all walk into the store. It's like, oh, email address, phone number. It's like, I don't want to give it to you because I don't want you calling me and emailing me. Where's the value? And I think that concept too is like, yep, we're going to store your value. We're going to understand it. I go, and this is for your benefit, but you as the owner get the email, the phone number, and honestly, a 360-degree profile of the user that allows you to sync up that behavior, which like, honestly, that is the where the industry is going. The people that understand data best are going to be the ones that win. You just had a session that got released recently, and like a big part of the operators talking about how data is helping them be more productive than everybody else. And I feel like I've known the two of you forever. It's the same thing. Using data is going to make us make better, smarter decisions faster, and that's going to move the whole industry forward.
We have this feature where you can pop up the registration screen on the touchscreen kiosk before they even buy a card. And now you can optionally have a customer skip that in case they really don't want to, but you're really upfront advertising, hey, register your card in case you lose it, like Nick said, you will replace it. But also we might send you'll be able to subscribe to receive text notifications when your laundry is done. That's another benefit for these. It's really an all-around win-win-win, right? So we have customers, operators, we have the screen up on there's a main screen when the customer tries to buy a new card, and they're getting like 90% registration rates, right? So these are not just anonymous customers going to like, Home Depot or something, just buying and walking out. These are now actual customers who you can contact and promote to, and it really builds that connection a lot more strongly than no connection to that customers.
I love that. I didn't realize they could get text notifications of like when their laundry, like, so can they get it when it's ready to be moved to the dryer and then again when it's done at the dryer?
Right now, it's just whenever the machine is done. Yeah, any washer or dryer. That's right. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Across America, 1 in 7 laundromats run on Cents. Cents is the all-in-one software, hardware, and payments platform built specifically for the laundry industry, giving laundry business owners and operators the same powerful tools big businesses have always had. AI-driven management, integrated payments with Laundroworks, marketing tools, pickup and delivery, and real-time business insights. Over 4,500 locations already trust Cents to make their laundromat run smarter, grow faster, and keep more cycles turning. From the wash floor to the back office, Cents is the operating system the laundry industry has always needed. Built for laundry, built for the owners who run it. Learn more at trycents.com.
And I just wanted to point this out there. Nick touched on it real quickly. We just had an episode with Brandon Understall and the O'Mara brothers.
Love them.
It was one of our best episodes ever because of the guests, by the way, and maybe a little bit if we've gotten a little bit better at doing this after 120 episodes.
It was them.
It was mostly them.
They're pretty good. I'll give them that.
They're amazing.
I've
known them for years. But the other thing I want to point to that is the reason I think that we've gotten such positive feedback on that episode is because they're so in sync with their data, right? And if you watch the episode again, I think you'll pick up on the fact that they very subtly talk about that Laundroworks collects the majority of their data, and then they have an integration, and they drop it into, I think he said Google Sheets, and then they use AI to analyze the data. But I think in that episode, we and even David and Tom and Brandon, I think we maybe real quickly glossed over the fact that Waterworks is collecting the data for them. And if you know anything about Brandon, even before he partnered with Tom and David, you know that he's one of the biggest Laundroworks advocates out there in the entire industry, right? And has been for, gosh, maybe 2016. I'm not real sure, Oleg, if he was one of your first customers, but
One of the earlier customers,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
probably
So
around
I just wanted to
2019 or
point
so.
out that I think the synergy exists where we get all this feedback about how amazing that episode was. And I'm like, that's true. And a big part of the reason is because they collect data and the way they use data. Well, they couldn't use the way data in the way that they do to make business decisions if they couldn't first collect the data. And Laundroworks is the foundation for that, right? They don't do pickup and delivery. They don't do drop off laundry. They don't even have a counter. I don't even think they have like a POS, if I remember right. But yet these guys are still at the absolute top of the industry with a plain Jane business model where they are serving people with a customer experience that's at a level, and then they can read the data behind the results of that customer experience. I just wanted to, guys, if you haven't listened to that episode or watched it, you need to go check it out. But I wanted to draw the correlation because we're kind of at the beginning of that journey from a self-serve perspective because we've been quarters and dollar coins for so long. Pickup and delivery, we've had the data for a while now, but I think that's an important thing to point out. If you missed that episode, go check it out.
Actually, can I comment on data for a second, just as general? So this is actually something where I really do believe this as a futurist, as a technologist, as someone that's innovated a few small businesses before this. Data is absolutely going to be key. And I actually think like it's Clean Show, a lot of people are talking about data and who owns data. I think it's a really important topic. So something that's in our DNA is like, one is like, you mentioned some things there they mentioned on their own. Like, right. They all customers own their data. We don't own their data. It's super important. This is really, really big though. Is like, I think we're the only company out there that has a terms of service that talks about data ownership, meaning that we make it very clear that it belongs to the owner, their ability, the right to be forgotten, all that stuff. But also too is the ability for that data to be utilized. Like we don't have permissions on it. And I think we also have a whole IS&T team that's dedicated around keeping that data safe for everybody too. And I think like that's a big thing is when people are thinking about partners and providers is like, I think like, where's the terms of service? Like, I think that needs to be clear because that's going to outline it. And two, like, hey, you're talking to the CEO who's also selling it. It's like, great. Where's your data team that's protecting the data that's sitting in these warehouses as well? And I think those are two things that we don't advertise a ton because I don't think they're really core to the business. But as we're getting bigger and these bigger operators, like having a strategy around keeping their data safe and being very clear about who owns it, that's really important these days because I think that's going to become the currency in the future of allowing these multi coast to coast ownerships.
So, as we talk about all this data, as someone who, let's say, is either new to the industry or maybe just new to Laundroworks, there is so much data in there, so much data. What would you recommend are the key data points that they should even be monitoring?
I love this. So I was at Wash Dry Fold just recently. Actually, it was right around where I was at the table with the two of you. So I like to just bounce around and like meet new people. And so I sat next to this gentleman. His name was Eric. And I was like, oh, Eric. I was like, oh, I just bought your system. And he's like, he goes, how do I look at the data? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, you want to bring it up? There's a laptop here. And we were going through like the summary. It's like, there are things like naturally, like, let's look at how much money was separated from my consumers going into my pocket, right? Which is that experience at the kiosk. And obviously that's super important. The more money coming into your kiosk, the better off you're going to be. I think a lot of business owners look at stuff on a monthly basis. And the problem with monthlies is like some months have 4 Sundays and months with 5. And so like, oh, I'm down. I was like, when you look on a weekly basis. So number one piece of advice is I'd like always make sure you're looking at your data on a weekly basis because I think it gets rid of anomalies. And I think both you are nodding because I think this is a lesson you probably learned a long time ago, but it's not obvious. And so let's look at that. 2 is, and I would say this is the number one report that people do not use that I think using a loyalty card system makes possible. New cards dispensed. New cards dispensed by definition, that means someone walked up to your kiosk, put $20 and said, issue me a new card. This is a proxy for how many new people walked in the door on a weekly or monthly basis. And what's going to find is you install right away, maybe in a retool or something, you're going to give out a ton of cards really quickly because you're basically just giving out a card to the customers you already have. What happens though is after that period of month or whatever the case is like, are you consistently getting new cards going out the door? And that basically means, are you getting people coming in? So are we consistently, and is that growing? Working with Laundry Boost and stuff like that, is that number growing over time, right? Really important. The second report is how many accounts did we see in a month? And what that's defined as, if I come in for the first time to use a cards account, but if Carla comes back for the 6th month in a row, you want to see that number of counts growing over time. Because those two proxies is, if you have more new people coming in constantly and you're retaining those users over time, that is the bedrock of loyalty. And I've used this stat before. 40-ish% of customers represent 90% of lifetime revenue, of self-serve revenue. So issuing cards and retaining them is basically going to be that flywheel of a compounding business. So I'd say there's a lot of looking at the normal stuff, what machines are being used, how often they're being used, the size of the machines being used, user individual card data to see when it was issued, how much they've spent with you, how often they've come back, the last time you've seen them. But if I had to give it to 2 reports, outside of money coming to the customer, I would say it's the cards being issued is way underutilized. And I'd also think that the accounts being used in a month, incredibly underutilized. If those numbers are pointed in the right direction, your trajectory of the business is changing.
Cards being used, meaning tapped or swiped or whatever on the machine.
Yep. So just say hypothetically you issued 1,000 cards over a year,
Right.
It's in any given month, how many of those 1,000 cards did you see? And so what happens is it's the returning customers over time. And some of those can be new as well, but do you have more unique customers coming to your laundromat on a monthly, weekly basis?
Gotcha.
And can you actually run reports where it's like it can compare various months? What was your returning number for January?
Yep.
What was it for February? Okay.
Now I got to jump in there for a second, and we still have other stuff to talk about, but Nick talked about it a minute ago. Not a fan of the months tracking. Completely agree. Weekly is great. I also want to throw out there that quarterly is really powerful, right?
Yes.
When you
So
look
that can have varying number of Sundays
well,
too.
it can, but only by one, right?
Yeah.
Not by 5 versus 4, which is 25%. The reason that I like to look at quarterly and weekly is weekly doesn't factor in the weather. It doesn't factor in holidays, right? A certain holiday may fall on a certain day of the week or a certain day of the month. If you look at that week by week, year over year, that week may have bad, terrible weather a year ago, right? As an example, in Cincinnati, we got this 12 inches of snow. We were literally closed for 3 days, right? Like literally closed, which rarely happens here. But if you're looking at that data year over year, week over week, you might think, man, I really did something drastic in this week, right? The quarter, a quarter accounts for those things, I think. So I like the big data point of a quarterly, monthly, but I do like the weekly.
Big on trends. Great question.
That's right. Yeah.
Can we also, through the Laundroworks platform, their data tracking, can we keep a monitor on how much float? Does it even differentiate? Like, does it age the float, like to see what is stale float or versus what is active float?
Yep, there are reports there where you could say, give me all outstanding cards that have, say, not been used in the last, let's say, 30 days, right? And then it'll just give you all those cards, but also an aggregate sum of all the float. So that's what, we internally call the stale float. And that can maybe, calc your accountant, obviously, but maybe it can come off the balance sheet or something like that as in that payable and liability items, right? And then you can say the opposite here. Here are all the cards that have been used in the last 30 days or something like that. Yeah. So there are reports and tools for that.
And can I also see a report? Like, so we have the big dollar bonus or whatever. So like we have to incentivize people to use the loyalty card. If they put in a $20 bill, they actually get $25 on their loyalty card, right? Can I also run reports to see how much like extra money I've given out?
Yep. That's in our standard. That's a standard sort of line item that we report on payouts given out, whether you're doing some sort of free dry promotion on the dryers, for the extra dry credits. It's another type of promotion we have, or just actual dollar bonuses that you've given towards the balance. That's all being reported on for sure.
Actually, now that you mentioned some of the different bonuses, so you have a ton of experience with various users using Laundroworks. What are some of the best promotions you've seen where they were really the most successful at getting a lot of people in, putting a lot of value on their card? Can you share some of those strategies?
Yeah, like I think the biggest one, and actually you touched on this on your CCI conversation, is like the biggest thing is like you have 2 situations that you roll out a Laundroworks system or even a new payment system. One is you're opening a location, you're new to everybody. That is a different scenario. And then you also have the like laundromat, maybe a retool, or even like just updating technology. It's the exact same machines, just you close down on a Wednesday afternoon, the system gets installed because it only takes a day to install the system. And on Thursday, you have this new relationship. I still believe the double your money promotion is the best promotion out there. Cause like, and everyone, you've seen me on the forums, a lot of people talk about it. I'm like, the psychology is sometimes backwards. It's actually not a marketing thing. It's very little to do with marketing. It's more to do about inherent loyalties. There's two reactions. Someone walks in and they go, oh my God, I have to now load value. That might be the reaction. You go, no, no, no. The whole store is 50% off, right? And everyone's like, oh, this is better. And once they realize it's better and the system's easier and they're not lugging quarters, much happier. And two, it also, that idea too is like, yeah, we're going to pay for you this week and we're going to front you next week. See you next week. And I think that's the thing too, is like, and I mean, any owner watching this is not a zombie mat owner, right? I think anyone putting the research, we know the difference of those types of owners is like, you put on a modern laundromat and like, you give me a couple chances, you're going to love this place. I promise you. And I think that's the biggest part about the double your money is the psychology of like, either way, oh, I hate this. Great. It's 50% off. I was like, that sounds better. Or two, I want to see you next week. Because I know if you give me 3 chances, you're going to be here forever. And I want that. And I will do that for you if you'll do that for me. And I think I always this concept, when I talk about something called the I love you first, I really think the double your money promotion allows us to go, I love you first. I was like, I'm going to show you that I'm worthy of your hard-earned money over the next 10 years. I'm worthy of you telling everyone that this is a safe place for your friends to be. I am worthy of putting on a product that is going to help your community in a meaningful way. And I think the double your money promotions, that's one. The second part is any of the promotions, the double your money bonus, the big bill bonus, the matching bonus, all of those, I think they pull up the same heartstring. Because when you think about that concept of, the first 2 weeks, like not every new customer is coming in those first 2 weeks. So you want to give them a reason to say, hey, I want to earn your loyalty, right? Right? I don't want to steal your loyalty. I don't want to force your loyalty. I want to earn your loyalty. So I think the big bill bonus, which is you put a larger bill, you get a deposit, pulls on that. I think the matching bonus, any deposit does that as well. So I think any of those things pull at the same.
Isn't matching the same thing as double your money?
So matching has degrees. You can match dollar for dollar. You can match 5 for 1, 20 for 1. And I think that's the degrees of matching, I think, are a big part of that as well. So all of those pull at the same heartstring, which says like, I'm going to give you future value in exchange for your loyalty because I want to earn your loyalty. And I think in a traditional cash environment, the only way to do that is to hand them physical cash. And I think when you're offering a credit, it will never come back. It costs the business owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add, no, there's a couple of other promotions that are, I see a lot of operators using. And one of them is time of day, time of week price to incentivize. And then you can actually, it's get granular with it. You can say all my 60 and 80 pound washers, I'm going to do 20% off on Tuesdays or something. Okay. You can do any sort of combination. And what that does is actually shave down your peak demand, maybe on the weekends when you're full capacity. You say, you know what, guys, come in on Tuesday. These are going to be much cheaper. So we actually see a lot of people using that promotion. So that's a time of day, time of week pricing is popular. Also, there are pockets in the US where customers almost, they've been locked into this idea of they're going to get free dry. Right? I'll wash, but I'm going to come into free dry. So we have a free dry promotion, which is popular, where you can accrue, when you do wash, it accrues a secondary digital balance on the card, which can only be used towards dryers, right? Dryers still have a price, but it'll eat into that free dry balance first before using the wash. So you have to wash before drying. You can't just walk off the street and just start drying. In fact, we even have this little restriction tool where the system, even if you're not using this free dry, it says, you know what? No. You got to wash before you use the dryer. It doesn't matter. I need to see you wash in the last 4 hours before you can use the dryer. That's not really a promotion. That's more of like
a restriction. But we have that come up in discussions about what do you do with people coming straight into the dryer? Because the two things coming straight in the dryer are homeless people that got wet and they just want to dry their clothes, or people with bed bugs. Because if you look up what to do with bed bugs, they say go to your local laundromat and dry it on high heat, and that kills the bugs. And those are two things that we don't want happening in our laundromat.
Yeah. So definitely use that. You can use that restriction there.
Can I actually talk to that theory too about like, I think, let's talk about bed bugs. We don't have a solution for that. But I think we talk about that's actually hilarious. The operating system is like, I think there are things within this, like, for example, like one of the big pain points you see on the forums, let's talk about laundromat owners that maybe this is not their full-time job, which happens. And so last wash enforcement is tough for everybody. So one of the features that you actually use time of day pricing for is, and this is a really clever way to use it, is say last wash is 10, right? So you can just stop the washers at 10, but leave the dryers intact. And what all it does is sends a signal automatically to the reader saying, don't accept taps after 10 p.m. And that stops the washer so clothes don't get wet, but still allow them to get dry. And that also prevents owners. Yes.
When am I going to get that on my pennies?
We'll get there. We'll get there. I promise you. We'll get there. And now it's recorded, so that's tough.
You
We'll
know
get
that.
there. But I think that feature too is like, it's right, just shows the pain point. Like you run probably like one of the most best practice laundromats on planet Earth. And he's still like that last wash was a struggle, fully attended with management and multiple layers of redundancy. And you're trying to run your wash, dry, fold business behind that. So you need to treat the customer right. But I think there's features like that. And the other big one, and this is the one where I remember Oleg, I will never forget this. He's like, oh yeah, we have this thing. You can put a reader on a bathroom door that allows it to basically, like you've used a washer, use a dryer, your customer. So that helps basically offer a service to your patrons without offering it to all of society. And that one little feature, I was like, oh, okay, that turned out to be one of those things where people like, the best feature is the bathroom. And it's a really simple implementation.
I have a question about that because I know we've had people on the podcast before that have talked about using loyalty card to get into the bathroom, like it like has to have a balance on it. But obviously, can you just say you have to have turned on a washer within the last hour?
So I'm going to say yes. So what's really wild, and I give Oleg and his team so much credit for this, is anything that can be set at a washer effectively can be set for that reader as well. So you can just say, you have a loyalty card, you can get in. You can only get in during these hours. You can get in if you pay. You can get in if they're free. You can only get them if you used a washer and dryer in this certain period of time. So what's really interesting, and I probably do this way more than I should, is I will have inquiries coming in from the forums based like, I have this issue with the bathroom, and we'll like troubleshoot together. Like, hey, let's try 3 hours. Let's try 1 hour. Let's try you had to use the wash. It actually allows you to fine tune. Like the reality is like 5 laundromats on 5 different blocks deal with 5 totally different unique situations. And like the ability to fine tune the ethos of that reader, as silly as that sounds, like it's not like you install it and this is the way it works. Let's disable it for a period of time. Let's enable it. Let's change the criteria. And I think that's a big thing about the system as a whole is like, it really is an operating system, way more than a payment system that happens to make you dramatically more money. You working way less hours, which is sort of the American dream.
Sure. I do have one question on the bathroom reader. Can that have its own rules of engagement? Every reader could, in theory, have its own rules of engagement of blast load or whatever. Not that you'd want, but I'm just pointing that out as a use case for, I don't know, a massage chair, right? You could have a thing on massage chair where they can't start a massage chair, I don't know, an hour before closing or something like that. I don't know.
Can you put like the loyalty card readers, can you put them on vending machines and games and massage chairs and all that kind of stuff?
Here we go.
I'm going to tell you the sales answer, and then Oleg will tell you how far he's taken this thing, which is wild. So if someone came in off the street and was like, hey, can you do it? I was like, if you have a VendRight machine or MDB compliant vending machine, it can be placed on there. Absolutely no problem. And so washers, dryers, bathroom doors, vending machines. And also if you have a compatible POS, which is Cents and other point of sales, also allow you to put a Laundroworks reader, allow you to accept at all those places. Now, has Oleg over the last 10 years received phone calls from me like, can you please put it on this machine? Oleg has gotten it onto some devices before, but our standard implementation is washers, dryers, electronic door locks, point of sales, and MDB compliant vending machines and VendRight machines. That would be the PC answer. Is that fair, Oleg?
So Oleg, what's the fun answer of what you've put it on?
Fun. A pet wash station, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
They have the dog washes, claw machines. Of arcades, but really these claw machines. There's some so popular here in Toronto. There's entire arcade rooms that are just full. It's just a claw machine arcade room. I don't understand it, but it's a thing, right? So definitely that. Showers, I don't know, just general human showers. I don't know, that wouldn't be, that's more like camps and stuff. But really anything where you have access control you want to charge or just gate access, and anything you can think of, right? That's the beauty of having this kind of card, that it's not just like payment, it's access as well.
Nick, I'm going to challenge you, right? So I'm going to come back to it again because we got the penny readers, right?
Yep.
When are we going to get those same abilities on the penny readers? Do they work on the Vision Vendor? Yeah.
Not yet. I think there's going to be some news coming out probably in the next couple of months. I think anyone that Clean to Clean show probably saw the early part of the news. There's a lot of development into also the part of the reason that we are making the investments we're making is to kind of bring a more modern device to on-machine payments. And I think with that comes a lot of the reasons. This is the dream. every place you can use a Laundroworks reader, you can use a pay at machine device operating on the same ecosystem. And that's been something that even when we went through the idea phase, it's like, hey, we really want the killer on machine device. I was like, has to be universally compatible with Laundroworks. It has to have all the same features that it has. Because a user has to look at the use case exclusively, separately from the, oh, well, this has that feature, that has that feature. And I think that's we're trying to make sure the company goes in that direction. Cause like, I think when I step back and look at the industry 5 years from now, I think it's the idea that everything's modular, everything's integrated, everything's reasonably affordable because we're dealing with small businesses. And I think it's also like incredibly reliable with support behind it. I think you do those things well. Like that's the technology that the industry needs to move forward as a whole, as a company. That's what we're trying to provide.
Would you like to make more money from your laundromat? Would you like those machines you're paying for to have more turns per day? Do you offer wash, dry, fold services or pickup and delivery laundry services? If not, would you like to? Whether you do or not, we have an amazing opportunity for you in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, you've probably heard about it, guys, but it's our wash, dry, fold, pickup, and delivery workshop. And to answer your first question, yes, it is for drop-off laundry, wash, dry, fold, and pickup and delivery. So if you're doing any of those things, this workshop is going to help you tremendously. But the truth is, we were pretty so-so laundromat owners and so-so successful until we launched drop-off laundry and pickup and delivery. And being able to what I call optimize your laundromat to generate more profit and more revenue out of the existing facility, that's the key to taking your life from good to great, financially speaking, with laundromats. And that's what made us Laundromat Millionaires.
You don't have to just listen to us. Listen to what some of our past attendees have to say about our Wash, Dry, Fold, Pickup and Delivery workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio.
It was the best workshop I've attended in over 25 years. And what you guys have put together is nothing short of phenomenal. I think that you guys have put together both strategic and tactical systems that will make an individual who wants to own the laundromat profitable within months, not years.
Was a workshop worth the investment? Without a doubt, it was definitely worth the investment. So not only did we have two very packed days with Dave and Carla and their team, both in the classroom and touring the facilities, but we also came away with this extensive 100-page handbook. And then after the workshop was completed, I received a bunch of electronic performers and templates that we've been able to use since the workshop. Every day since the workshop, I've found myself referring back to either those electronic tools or the handbook that we received. So,
was it worth the investment? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot say that enough. This was such a blessing, and I am so very grateful that Dave and Carla put this together and are sharing their knowledge and experience with others to have this to grow their business and to become more successful. Thank you, guys.
So are you interested? Go to laundromatmillionaire.com to learn more and see where you can register.
So Cents just raised $140 million.
Sure did.
Y'all got bukus of money right now. Where's it going to go? What kind of features are we going to be getting?
Wait, before you go there, like a lot of people want to know why in the world you've already raised $77 million. You're already profitable. Why do you need to do another round of funding? And I don't know if you want to share that or not. A lot of people have asked me and I'm like, I honestly don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't know.
All right. So let me step back for a second. And like, this goes way, so I'm going to say this so politely, like this industry has like a lot of fear mongering as like a style of moving stuff along, which really it is a flaw of the industry. And I think everyone that's been doing this for a while needs to step back and say, like, let's just be truthful, honest, and transparent with each other. So when you raise money, okay, this is not my first tech company that has raised money. It's like you raise money to do more things in less time. That is it. That is it. I was like, you have a roadmap, like even the stuff when you're like, I want my pennies to be able to do time of day pricing. Like there's a trade-off between having the engineering time and the process. We've also taken the largest bite of an apple that anyone has ever tried to take in this industry. And it's historically been a fragmented family-run cottage industry. We get the benefit of being family-run, right? Gilly and Alex are brother-in-laws. Also, Oleg and his family. I think we probably have the most family members working at a business of anyone in the industry. But there's also an element too where when you raise money, it allows you to do the stuff you want to do faster. So when we look at the last 2 years, right? So I joined forces with Laundroworks in March of 2 years ago. It's like, right, you've kind of drawn a spreadsheet. Like, I hope we accomplish these things. Okay. We did double what we planned to do last year. And so it's one of those things where you start to realize like, oh, this is going way faster. The reason for money is allowing to bring our product roadmap in faster. And I think every single day their owners, like, I got a message today about like, hey, time of day should work with free dry credits. And like, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. I was like, we need to do stuff like that faster. So for us, I was like, the biggest thing we're investing in is a new era of customer support. And I think we have good customer support. I think, but I think the big part is the manufacturers, the ancillary products. I don't think anyone's really stood up a really, truly great customer support. And I think we want to be the gold standard for the industry. And I think we're good, but I think we power way more, too much of the industry to be good. We need to be great. So like, that is absolutely positively the number one thing that we're investing in. Next generation hardware, I think that's a big part is like we're going to get obviously the dime out there at some point, hopefully relatively soon, but like the VAC is not done. The Laundroworks Classic Reader is not done. Like there's technology that we've yet to even touch. We are going to invent.
Okay, I need to pause. I don't know what a dime or a vac is.
Okay, sorry. Great pause. So the dime is great. This is why Carl is here. So this is the penny reader. This is our first on-machine payment. But dime is the next generation of that reader. People saw a clean show. We're actually working, putting out there. But like, that's not a destination. We're done. I'm like, oh, we're done. I go, we're done. We get on to the next one. And until we can offer every type of device that allows the industry to operate, we're just going to keep innovating. The VAC is actually what we call the Laundroworks kiosks, and it stands for Value Add Center, VAC, Value Add Center. So the kiosks that are on the wall, they come in a different couple of flavors. We call them VACs. And the touchscreen is the most common one. So thanks for the clarity on that one. And the big one, and this is super cliche, but like massive intelligence and AI, like for example, everyone's guessing on machine pricing. That is right. You can research all day. It's an educated guess on machine pricing. I am telling you that there's probably a more scientific way to price machines, and AI should be able to unlock the pricing of machines. Not saying we're launching that tomorrow. When you think about the automation of support, the automation of helping you look into your data and find recommendations, like there is so much. We are, even from 6 months ago, where AI is now versus then. And like by 2030, we're going to be dealing with an AI that is smarter than human intelligence. And like, if we're not leaning into that as a platform, the whole industry will struggle. We have the benefit of dealing with physical goods and a commodity. So physical goods, washers and dryers, and a commodity, meaning the sense like, no matter where you are in the US, laundry plays some role in your life. We're pretty insulated from where AI is going, but can that still make our life dramatically better? Yeah, we can make our life dramatically better. So I think it's a big one. The biggest thing is that our aspirations are incredibly large. And behind all of our aspirations are entrepreneurs like yourself and the 35,000 else that are out there. And they deserve better than what's available. And the $140 is allow us to get it faster at the lowest prices humanly possible. And honestly, we're still here 10 years from now. They're still here 10 years from now. We're still here 100 years from now if we build it the right way. And that's the biggest part of it. So,
wow. Great answer. You win.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. So I'm glad we got there. Yeah.
That's how we roll, Nick.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fair.
So we're running out of time today, but I want to make sure to give you a chance for those people out there, those listeners out there that are interested in looking into the Cents platform, looking into getting Laundroworks. How should they reach out to you all?
Such a good question. So we have two websites that are available for information. Cents.com, so TRYCENTS.com, and Laundroworks.com. That's going to be all our publicly available information, and the pricing, everything's on there. If you ever want to talk to us, this is what drives me insane. So it's like, oh, I've been trying to reach you. On both the websites, on the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says schedule a demo. You click that button, you type in information, a calendar will pop up, and you'll be able to book real time with someone that works directly for me, and they'll be able to book time on your schedule, a time that works for you. They'll set time aside to talk about the products you want to talk about. That is the absolute best way. And the truth is like probably 80% of the meetings that we have are individuals that are thinking about buying a laundromat, or they just purchased one, or they are thinking about a retool. That's why we're here. And that's why we make it easy to get in touch with us. Is that I say this to everyone, is that you should do all your research. I go, you should figure it all out and then make the decision that's best for you. So I think that process is pretty black box. And so we try to be incredibly transparent. And so you can book with any one of my teammates any day of the week, just using that button alone. I'd say the fastest way to get in touch with us in a meaningful way to have a conversation is that schedule a double button. And that's something we think a lot about, is how easy can it be to talk to us when you have a problem, a question, or an opportunity.
That's awesome. Well, both of you guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on here and educating the industry, having a tough conversation, explaining some things that maybe people have questions around your Series C and whatever type of thing, and even being a little playful and having a little fun with it. But also thank you for investing in the future and being aggressive about, hey, yeah, we as an industry can have these technologies and we can have them now. We don't have to wait 20 years, right? That's one of the things I've always said about the industry is, yeah, for the most part as an industry, we kind of always get the things that are out there. But why do we have to be the stepchild of all industry, right? Why do we have to get credit card readers 20 years after every other industry has already had them? I mean, if you guys weren't innovating and some other people in the industry weren't innovating, I mean, yeah, we'd be talking about AI like it's foreign, right? And 20 years from now, we'd be using an AI when it's ruling the world, right? I mean, it's just crazy how behind the times we are. And so I appreciate the investment that you guys make and the vision of that Sense has always had from the very beginning when I talked to Alex and Gilly has always been something that I've bought into more than the products.
We appreciate that. Thank you for all the support as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
For everybody back home, we thank you for joining us today. Hey, talk to Laundroworks, talk to Sense, see if they can help you. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the Laundromat Millionaire Show. We'll see you next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show, sponsored by HM Company at DrainTroughs.com. Take care, everyone.